College football week 1 has some of the best games to watch all year long, and these are my top 5 games that you cannot miss. Game number 5 is North Carolina TCU. Look, let's keep things pretty simple. This game itself should be pretty dang good with just a 3-point spread favoring TCU. But we all know why this game made this list. Bill Belichick coaching the Tar Heels for his first game, and we'll get to see him in action. There is a lot of question marks there. Is he going to be able to produce like he did in the NFL? Sure, we know he's a great coach. There's no dispute about that. But it would also be completely arrogant to say that college football and the NFL are the same game. There are going to be a lot of differences, and can he adjust to that? Can he still be a good coach in the college football format? Again, we're going to see in game 1 here. On the other side of the ball, we get to see Josh Hoover, who led the Horned Frogs last year with 3,939 yards and 27 touchdowns. Those are absolutely insane numbers, and getting to see him produce again is going to be an absolute blast. Eric McAllister's also probably set up to have a pretty big year, and this being his first game this year should be pretty good to see that. Another key thing to look out for is North Carolina's a very heavy transfer portal team. Of course, with Bill Belichick coming in, a lot of kids transferred in. TCU, on the other hand, doesn't have as many, so it's kind of the battle of historic team building versus the new transfer portal era. Again, this is a Monday night game, so there's nothing else really going on Monday nights, let's be completely honest. Why not tune into this game? And again, it's currently tied for the highest over-under total points at 59.5 for week 1 games, of course, so hey, again, should just be a fun game to watch. It's at North Carolina as well, so there's no excuses for the Tar Heels and Bill Belichick. Which brings us to game number 4, Alabama-Florida State. Florida State is coming off an embarrassing season and looking to rebound. Nearly the entire offense is transfers. Alabama, on the other hand, obviously has new quarterback Ty Simpson, but outside of that, the unit's pretty much the same. Again, here the spread is 13.5. So Alabama realistically should win this easily. Here's the thing, and here's where this game gets absolutely interesting, is this is a home game for Florida State, and you cannot tell me that they are going to be rocking Alabama. One of the best things about college football and college sports in general is that the crowds are absolutely immense compared to professional sports, at least in my opinion. And especially with college students being the ones playing the game, they get rattled much easier. Ty Simpson, in his first game leading the Tide, in a Florida State hostile crowd, after Florida State had a terrible year, but now they have so much life because of this new incoming transfer team. You can't tell me they're not going to be into it, and I think that this could be a big chance for an upset, and I love especially Florida State spread in this game. Sure, Alabama's going to be good. It's Alabama at the end of the day, but it should be a really great game. If either lose, it won't be ruining their season, but that doesn't change the fact that this game will be absolutely electric. Which brings us to game number 3, Notre Dame versus Miami. Again, in this game, there's just a lot of weird things to watch out for. Notre Dame's obviously coming in after their national championship loss. Miami's got new quarterback after Cam Ward in Carson Beck, who obviously transferred there with some NIL money, so that's just something to watch. A 2.5 spread towards Notre Dame, which is honestly kind of shocking. I'd think Notre Dame would be favored by more, but I guess the sports books have faith in Miami. It's a Sunday night game in Miami, which is probably a reason why, again, that spread is shifted so low towards Notre Dame. And even though Notre Dame has a brand new QB, Riley Leonard is gone, they still have a lot of returning starters versus Miami with a new quarterback, new starting running back in Mark Fletcher, who obviously had some touches last season, and almost a completely different wide receiver room. So again, we're looking at a brand new team that should be fun and sparky versus a traditional, hardcore, classic football school in Notre Dame. And Marcus Freeman just kind of coaches his team in that kind of way, that kind of fundamental style. Again, both teams have a chance at winning the playoffs this year, being national championship contenders. Miami being the ACC's second favorite right now, below Clemson, of course. And again, Notre Dame, they just seem to always have a chance or just kind of hang around a little bit. They were in the national championship last year. They can probably get back there again this year. Which brings us to game number 2, LSU-Clemson. Clemson is people's favorite, being the ACC frontrunner and expected to compete for a national championship this year, at least in some extent. Looking to for sure make the playoffs. Again, if they're ACC favorites, they'll make the playoffs, assuming that they still perform, right? But LSU has some pretty big transfers to watch, and Patrick Payton, Nick Anderson, and a few other guys. They're not no sleeper team. This is an interesting game as well because it's two of the few teams, at least in the playoff picture, in the hey, these are great teams picture, that have a returning quarterback. Clemson's got Klubnik, LSU's got Nussmeier. You can't tell me that this isn't going to be a fun and interesting game to watch just for that fact alone. Another thing is this is the first major night game. Sure, there's a pretty big game that happens earlier in the day, which we'll talk about, but this is the first college football, like, fully night game vibes, crowd's gonna be rocking And of course, we have that Florida State-Alabama game as well, but there's not many other night games to compete with. This is simply a good watch if you love college football. You gotta watch LSU play Clemson. Which brings us to game number 1 that you cannot miss. You cannot miss this. If you don't even like college football, you can't miss this game. Ohio State, Texas. We all knew this is coming and should be no surprise. Rematch from last year's playoff, arguably Ohio State's toughest matchup in their natty run. They blew out Oregon, handled Tennessee pretty well. I would say that they pretty much beat Notre Dame pretty simply as well, but that's an argument for a different day. Only team that seemed to give them problems was Texas. Sure, the score didn't show that, but anybody that watched that game knew that it was way closer than what the score showed. According to most sports books, these are currently the top 2 teams slated to win the national championship. Again, Penn State's up there as well and stuff like that, but most sports books have Texas then Ohio State, or Ohio State then Texas, or it's like Texas then Penn State and Ohio State, right? It's those 2 teams at the top, and the fact that we're getting this matchup in week 1 is crazy. A big storyline in this as well is both teams have a quarterback that has unanswered questions. Of course, Arch Manning's been semi-proven, but Julian Saint's a complete wild card. And at the same time, like, we haven't seen Arch Manning play that much. Like, he is going to have to go in the horseshoe and play. That's, again, a just incredible, like, little storyline to watch out for. Again, another thing is Arch Manning's the current leader for Heisman Trophy winner alongside contenders in Jeremiah Smith and Julian Saint. Again, we haven't even talked about Jeremiah Smith, easily the most talented wide receiver currently in the college athletic sport. Also might even have like an argument for being the best player in college football right now as well, which is just crazy. And him having to go ahead and play a Texas defense with a completely brand new quarterback is just insane in that aspect. Current spread is just 2.5 towards Ohio State, but to be fair, we don't need that to tell us this is going to be a close, good game. I think it being at Ohio State makes it a lot better as well because Arch Manning's at least had some experience in game. Julian Saint hasn't had any at all. I think it's way more fair for them to play at Ohio State than for them to play down in Texas, but that's just my opinion. Overall, there's so much we could dive into, but there's no need to. If you love college football, you need to watch this game. Again, there are a ton of great matchups. Week 1, like Colorado's first game without Shedeur and Travis Hunter. Will they be able to play well? Baylor versus Auburn, which could be a sneaky good one. And even Tennessee versus Syracuse has the potential to be really fun. But these are just my top 5 picks, but then again, that's just my take.